Welcome back to my channel. Once again, I am Teacher MD. Together, let us know more about the elements of a story such as character, plot, and setting. But before that, do not forget to hit the subscribe button to be updated with my upcoming videos. Now, let us begin. Have you ever imagined life without reading materials such as books, pocketbooks, and even comics? Or a life without novels, series, or films? Sounds boring, right? So, thanks to all the writers who share their every piece of work to all of us. For the readers or viewers, it's time to know the elements that make up the story that we read or watch. Now, let us start with characters. Can you give me an example of a character that starts with E, N, G, L, I, S, and H? Let us have letter E. Great job! We have Elastigirl and Esmeralda. How about letter N? That's right, Nemo and Nebula. How about letter D? Of course, Green Lantern and Gollum. Letter L. Yes, Lightning McQueen and Lucy. Another one, letter I. Indeed, Iron Man and Ichabod Crane. How about letter S? Correct, Sherlock Holmes and Sadness. And finally, letter H. That's great, Hades and Hermione. Job well done, guys! So now, what do you mean by characters? Characters refer to persons, creatures, or things serving as actors or movers in a story. They portray specific roles with corresponding dialogues and plot lines. Stories have protagonist and antagonist. Protagonist refers to the main character in the story, while the antagonist is the opposing character. As we all know, characters give life to a story, and it is very impossible to have a story without characters, right? Meanwhile, characterization is a writer's tool or literary device that occurs anytime that the author uses details to teach us about a person. Characterization may be direct or indirect. It is direct if the writer makes direct statements about the character's personality and tells what the character is like, such as a lady with black hair and fair complexion, a wicked stepmother, and an innocent young man. Meanwhile, it is indirect if the writer reveals information about the character and his or her personality through the character's thoughts, words, and actions, along with how other characters respond and say about him or her. Number 2 is the plot. Plot shows how the author arranges events to develop the basic idea. Plot also refers to the sequence, series, or arrangement of events in a story. There are 5 essential parts of a plot as illustrated in the diagram: exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. Let us discuss it further. Exposition, also called as introduction, is the beginning of the story. In this part, we get to know the main character in the story and the setting as well. Next, rising action. This is where conflict arises or develops. Conflict refers to the problem in the story. Later, we will dig in deeper with what conflict is. For now, let us proceed with the third part, which is climax. Climax is the turning point in the story and usually described as the most exciting part, the highest part, or the peak of the story. Then, we have the falling action. Falling action is where the resolution begins. Events and complications start to fall into place. These are the events between climax and denouement. And finally, the resolution. Conclusion or ending that shows the final outcome of the events in the story. This usually shows whether the conflict was resolved or not. Going back with the term conflict. Conflict can be any form of struggle the main character faces. There may be only one central struggle, or there may be many minor obstacles within a dominant struggle. There are two categories of conflict, namely the internal and the external conflict as what is shown in the illustration. External conflict refers to the struggle between an outside force, while internal conflict refers to the struggle that takes place inside the character's mind. Internal conflict has only one example, and that is character versus self. Here, the character has to decide whether he or she will do good or bad things, or will pursue his dreams or give up. Meanwhile, external conflict includes character versus character, simply struggles against other people. This is very common in many films or series. For instance, Batman versus Joker or Peter Pan versus Captain Hook. Number 2. Character versus nature struggles against animals, weather, or environment, such as in the movie Anaconda, 2012, and The Day After Tomorrow. And lastly, character versus society, wherein the main character opposes the ideals of the society where he or she belongs, or vice versa, like in the movie or series Robin Hood. Moving on, the third basic element is the setting. Setting actually answers the when and where of the story. For some stories, the setting is very important, while for others it is not. In some works, several settings are used by the writer. When examining how setting contributes to a story, there are multiple aspects to consider. Place. Is it set in an Asian country where strong family bond is the main theme? Or in horror stories, for example, was the story set in a haunted house, forest, or mountains to add effect to the story? Time. Is the story set at the present time, in the future, or years ago? Weather conditions. Is it rainy, sunny, stormy, etc.? In dramas or romantic films, for example, they include cool or rainy ambience to add romantic vibes to the scene. Social conditions. What is the daily life of the characters like? Does the story contain local color? And finally, mood or atmosphere. What feeling is created at the beginning of the story? Is the mood something creepy, quiet, relaxing, or melancholy? In brief, setting does not only include the time and place. Hence, it also includes the weather conditions, social conditions, and mood or atmosphere in the story. And so, we are done again with our lesson. Just don't forget the three basic elements that make up a story. character, plot, and setting. Stories have the power to entertain us, but most of the time their power are too great that they tend to inspire or educate us as well. So, never get tired of reading stories and watching different films, especially those that teach us lessons. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day ahead.